Hello there, and good evening to you, and I hope everybody's doing well. And yes, I know it's been a while since I've been here, but I've been occupied with appointments, nothing massive, just doing some things to check up on my health and make sure I stay healthy. Um, more I see, I don't know, maybe some of you have seen recently that Dolly Parton, a lot of stuff was talking about how healthy she was, and she made the comment that she's just making sure that she stays healthy. That's more or less where I'm coming from, trying to make sure that I stay healthy, but that entails a lot of doctor's appointments because as soon as they check this out, they need to check that out, and they want to say, "Well, why don't we have you?" And it goes on and on and on. Anyway, moving right along. Um, Continuing or picking up, if you've forgotten, which I couldn't blame if you had my thoughts about making changes. I want to talk about a couple of terms today, and that's the difference between being and becoming. Now, when you're trying to make a change or think about doing something different or wanting to be somebody other than what you are currently as of this very, very moment, most people, including me, think in terms of what you want to become. There's a big difference between the word being and becoming. There's a lot of difference between the idea of action and thinking from that standpoint. Let me give you one little small analogy. Think in terms of five frogs on a log. One of them decides to jump off. How many frogs are on the log? Now, some of you are going to say four. Nope, there's five. One decides to jump off, but deciding doesn't mean jumping. So that frog that's decided to jump off is still sitting on the log. So there's still five there. So that in many cases, when we decide we're going to do something, we're just thinking about making a change or doing something, but we're not actually taking action and doing anything about it. Does this make sense? So how many times have you decided you were going to change something or not eat as much or stop watching TV or doing whatever it is that you decided you were going to do or not do, but you didn't actually do it? Or you did it once or twice and then said, oh, this isn't going to work because you had a failure of some sort. Something ran into a problem and it just sort of stopped, came to a screeching halt, and you said, oh, I can't do this. This isn't going to work. And so you basically stopped. It's kind of like if you decide you're going to, again, to use, I don't know why I'm going to have to, Doritos, because I don't even eat Doritos. You decide you're going through a whole bag of Doritos and you say, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then you find yourself eating Doritos and say, oh, well, I can't stop this. Might as well continue. And you eat the whole bag. Why? Because you just ate the one. No, 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 no. I know you ate one. It didn't work out. Just eating those Doritos. That doesn't mean you can't close the bag and put them away and maybe keep them for later. You had a glitch, if you will, and that doesn't mean anything about your potential for not eating them tomorrow or the next hour or anything else like that. You're thinking in terms of becoming. When you think in terms of becoming, you're thinking in terms of, in a sense, maybe, shall we say, perfection. I'm going to become somebody who's, not overweight or doesn't eat Doritos or gets things done on time. And so that when you don't do something that fits that particular mindset, you think you've somehow failed. Humbug. I would suggest, on another hand, that you think in terms of the term being. Act like the person that you want to be. So if you're, again, eating Doritos, act like a person who doesn't eat Doritos. Maybe even if you really want to try it that much, act like a person who doesn't even like Doritos. You may fall or you may eat the Doritos and you may trip over yourself. Or maybe if you're trying to say, I'm not a procrastinator. Okay, so one of these days something's going to happen, it's not going to work. Nobody's perfect. But think in terms of what is the person who thinks that and what are they likely to do? Somebody who, let's take procrastination, get off the Doritos. So somebody who says, I'm not a procrastinator, and then you find yourself procrastinating. You might just say, oh, well, I just, what's the point? Give it up and, procrastinate again. What's a person who doesn't procrastinate do? Thinks in terms of, okay, I procrastinated, what's going on here? And in a sense, goes around and thinks about it, makes some adjustments, and goes on and stops procrastinating in other areas of his or her life. Because somebody who doesn't procrastinate, because that's the whole concept of being a person who doesn't procrastinate, right? So when it doesn't fit your personal image, you think in terms of, okay, what's going on here? Am I tired? Am I not feeling well? Is this a specific circumstance? And looking at that as a glitch in a sense that, yes, it is a glitch, but you're looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, this didn't work. Why did it not work? And seeing if you can fix it. But as a person who doesn't procrastinate, you don't think of yourself as being, oh my God, and fall apart because you've just done something. You think of yourself, oh, well, that's a little glitch. I'll go back to being my normal self, but I won't procrastinate tomorrow. See the difference? If you're going to be the person who doesn't procrastinate, if you're going to be the person who's healthy, if you're going to be the person who, whatever it is that you're going to be, act like you think that person is, or it does, or whatever it is, depending on the particular verb you're looking at. Does this make sense? Now, there's a Chinese method, excuse me, not Chinese, Japanese method of making corrections called Kaizen, Kaizen. And the process by that is essentially to think in terms of making small changes to work toward making bigger results. We Americans tend to think in terms of, in a sense, if you want to say it, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We want to, clean everything out and do everything all at once. This particular process is just doing things small and is incremental and working at it to improve it slowly but surely. So it makes life a lot easier if you can do that. In Japanese organizations, they will empower people to make small changes because it's going to work. And if that works better for one team, then it goes to another team. And slowly but surely, it can change the whole organization. But it starts with one or two people making a change and saying, hey, this works better. So in a sense, in an organizational standpoint, it's a bottom-up change as opposed to something that's being dictated from the top down. Okay? So when it comes to you, if you think in terms of small incremental changes, you're still the top-down, bottom-up issue, but you're looking at it from the standpoint of a small change, and you're working at making that small change and working and expanding from that. So you can start from here and make it larger, make it larger, make it larger, and make it larger, and make it larger, instead of just going then and trying to get rid of everything all at once, which is probably not going to work over the course of time. And you're going to go back and end up doing the same thing that you were doing before you got rid of everything. I'm thinking in terms of people who say try to stop cluttering. So they will clean out a drawer or a room or whatever. And they think, well, I'm just going to get rid of all of it. And so they do. And just about 3 months later, there's clutter back again. But if you think in terms of, okay, I'm just going to clean out one drawer, and then maybe it's the whole chest, and then you work at it slowly, you're more likely to discover that you're getting rid of the clutter over the course of time, that it stays over the course of time. Does this make sense? Does this run contrary to what most of you have seen other people do, maybe even contrary of what you think you do? So think in terms of being. Be that person who does or doesn't do, as the case may be, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. If you want to be successful, think of somebody who's successful in your area. Now, don't go totally overboard. I mean, if you're thinking, well, maybe on the second thought, maybe do go totally overboard, depending on what you're looking for. If you want to be, a successful business person, and right at the moment you don't even have a job, what does the person who's successful at business do? How do they behave? How do they carry themselves? What choices do they make? So, for example, maybe you don't have a job. Are you going to sleep in tomorrow morning and just tell yourself that you're not going to get anywhere? Or do you get up early and go do something and go start looking for jobs, talking to people and doing things? You understand where I'm coming from with this? If you're going to be whatever it is you want to be, get that picture in your mind about who you are and who you want to be and start being that person. You are that person. You are that person, really, because if you can conceive of that concept, you can conceive of being that person. Now, it might take you a little longer than just 24 hours to get there, but you can be that person. If you think about becoming that person, you're always becoming that person, in a sense like the frog on the log. You're making a decision that that's what you want, but you're not doing anything about it. You're going to be on a log, jump off of it. If that's where you want to be. If you want to stay on the log, stay on the log. If you want to get off it. but be the person you want to be. Make that change you want to happen. Yes, something may go wrong. Yes, you may end up falling off the log when you don't want to fall off the log because you just, like eating the Doritos when you didn't intend to. But just say, okay, that's one. Let's see what I do about this tomorrow or the next hour or whatever else it is. It's kind of like the concept from Alcoholics Anonymous. You're looking forward to the next 5 minutes of your life, not the whole, next 20 years. Just work toward those next 5 minutes, those next 30 minutes, those next hours. You don't have to think in terms of, gee, I'm never going to eat a Dorito for the rest of my life. That's not what you're looking for. You're just looking to make those incremental changes right now and changing those decisions. Okay. Does this make sense? If not, or if you've got a question about it, hit reply and let me know, and we'll chat about it and see what we can, see if I can help you figure that one out, make that a little clearer for you. So hopefully it will work out well, and we will continue this conversation a little later, and maybe I'll do more about the case in the future at some point. Okay, you take care, and you have a good day and a good week, and we will chat with you later. Bye. Okay, that worked out.